The James Chambers Show contains adult language. This is a special edition of The James Chambers Show. It's a quick episode that I decided to do in the wake of Sunday's mass shooting down in Texas. And it led me to do some thinking and to put a few things down on paper. And I wanted to express those to you, not immediately. I wanted to wait a day or two to make sure that I had thought everything through. I didn't want an off-the-cuff reaction that was inappropriate or ill-thought. So I'm going to go ahead and give you my thoughts on it now and some other things. And what I've done, typically I read my notes off of an iPad, but I wrote this on paper and I'm going to keep it on paper for now. And so you might hear a little paper shuffling. I apologize for that. My wife is downstairs watching TV. You might hear a little bit of Grey's Anatomy in the background, but this, I feel, is more important than me doing a polished episode. I wanted this needs to happen now, and this information needs to be out there now. I am becoming very frustrated and very upset about these consistent, just rolling numbers of mass shootings that are happening in our country. And it's incredibly disheartening when I hear the argument change away from the impact of mass shootings and to some just bizarre twist of logic that somehow the Second Amendment makes these things okay. And it's completely baffling. And so I'm just going to give you just some of my thoughts, and I hope this helps. And at the end, I'm going to give you some organizations that you can get involved with that will hopefully create something better, something that we can accomplish with action. So I posted a long news recap just a few days ago. And in that roundup, I made reference to the New York truck attack and how that compared to the Las Vegas mass shooting just weeks before. And I was asking the question, are we misplacing our fear of terrorism? Are we too eager to jump to the conclusion that a brown-skinned killer is a terrorist, but a pink-skinned killer is a lone wolf or has mental health issues? And while I was editing and post-processing that episode of the show, my smartphone just began to buzz furiously. Message after message flowed in describing this horrific aftermath in the shooting of Sutherland Springs, Texas. I really want this show to be reactive when big news hits, and I want to jump in and start breaking down what is happening and what we can do about it. Now, I nearly jumped right back into the studio and did a segment on the shooting, and I couldn't. I mean, nothing about this event was different from the Las Vegas shooting or Pulse nightclub or Virginia Tech or Sandy Hook Elementary or University of Texas and Austin, Texas, or Columbine or Edmond Post Office or San Bernardino or Fort Hood. And there's countless more. Sure, the locations are varied. Maybe some of the motives were different, but all of these cases, someone used a gun or many guns and killed innocent people. And this keeps happening. And for the life of me, I didn't know what I could say that would mean anything in that moment. And we can't retreat to ideological corners of the issue of gun violence in our country. We have a problem, and we must admit that we are living in a new reality here in America, one in which we're willing to tolerate the murder of innocents and children in the service of protecting the rights of the mythical good guy with a gun. Blame the person, not the tool. Guns don't kill people, people do. You can't infringe on the rights of law-abiding citizens to protect themselves, blah, 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 blah. So let me get this straight. We can't fix the problem. Is that really the answer? Just we can't fix the problem. The Second Amendment rights are absolute? Just no questions? No. That's bullshit. Our Second Amendment rights are already limited, and rightfully so. All of our rights are curtailed in the interest of public safety or to prevent abuse or just out of plain being reasonable. You don't get to own a tank. You don't get to own a machine gun. You don't get a bazooka or landmines or nuclear fucking bombs. So to you ardent gun rights activists, stop making the lazy argument that gun rights can't be curbed because of the Constitution. Well, they can and are and should be. You don't need a 30-round magazine for hunting. You don't need it for home defense. If you can't hit your target in 6 shots, you don't need to own a gun. You don't need a bump stock, and you sure as hell don't need a suppressor. None of these things have a practical purpose in our daily life. They don't, as a civilian, you don't need that. You don't need armor-piercing ammunition. Is Bambi wearing a fucking flak jacket? I mean, for God's sake. And if you're so worried about law enforcement, why the fuck do we have armor-piercing ammunition available for public consumption anyway? And look, fine. Own guns. I own guns. This shouldn't be a left-right conversation. This needs to be a public safety conversation. And look, I was sure that after Sandy Hook, after 26 people were gunned down in their school, mostly all children, I mean, that we could get our collective heads out of our asses long enough to recognize that maybe having more guns isn't the solution. Maybe it's actually the problem. And factually, we know for certain that more guns in a home or a city or a country, that the rate of gun deaths go up. No, it's not all homicide deaths. In fact, accidental death and suicide are among the leading causes of gun deaths. So explain to me how more gun cures that problem. I'll wait. I will wait. Right. Because more guns makes the problem worse. So just enforce the existing laws, I hear you cry. Well, yeah, of course. This deranged bastard who shot up the Baptist church in Texas fell through the cracks of the background check system. The system is people, by the way. So someone fucked up in the Air Force and in other places, and they didn't put his name in the database. Just because the system failed us in this incident doesn't mean we scrap the whole idea. We make it better. Please, I mean, by all means, enforce the laws that are on the books and make them have teeth. Would that have prevented this guy from getting a gun? Maybe. Maybe not. It sure as hell would have made it a lot harder. Maybe he would have picked up a knife and just killed his mother-in-law with it, or maybe his wife too. And this guy was going after his mother-in-law, and that's why he shot up the church, and he had already been accused of domestic violence against his wife. So, no, we couldn't have prevented all of the killing, most likely, but we could have prevented people from dying in the church and at the schools and at the nightclub. Make the federal database stronger. Make the states accountable to enter felons and domestic abusers and those with severe mental health issues into that system. Demand that the state and the federal government spend the money where it counts. More than that, we need to demand that all high-capacity magazines be made illegal for all firearms. Suppressors must be made illegal for civilian use. Demand that anything categorized as armor-piercing be made illegal in all 50 states. I mean, Jesus, just outlaw bump stocks. I mean, that should be a no-brainer. And these proposals are not extreme. They're completely reasonable, and they don't affect anyone's ability to protect their home or go target shooting or go hunting. The assault weapons ban and high-capacity magazine ban that happened back in the 80s, now it took time, but it worked. It's time to demand action again. No more mass killings with weapons designed to maximize casualties. Our thoughts go out to the people of Sutherland Springs. No one deserves to be gunned down like that. No one deserves to lose a child or a parent or a brother or sister or a friend in a senseless act of violence. It's despicable and it's vile and it's preventable. While we help our friends and neighbors mourn and ultimately heal from this tragedy, let's work to prevent the next one. And make no mistake, there will be a next one. Do something. Act. Here are 6 organizations you can become involved with to help curb the toll of gun violence in America. And this is in no specific order. Everytown for Gun Safety. Moms Demand Action for Gun Sense in America. The Brady Campaign. Americans for Reasonable Solutions. The Law Center to Prevent Gun Violence. And the Coalition to Stop Gun Violence. Don't stand on the sidelines. Get involved with these or other groups. Just get involved. It's our country. and it's our safety and it's our responsibility to do better. As always, thanks for listening. I'm your host, The Real MJC, reminding you to keep your eyes wide and your mind open.